Hello, hi, my name is Ren, and today we're doing another sketchbook tour. This one is a watercolor sketchbook. It's 100% cotton paper, and it is from Hanemüller, which, oh boy, let's talk about this sketchbook. So, I will be very negative about it, because quite frankly, I had a bad time using it. I did not like this at all. This was really disappointing, mostly because so far I've had really good experiences with both cotton paper sketchbooks and Hanemüller watercolor paper. However, this was not it, because it turns out I just don't like the way Hanemüller does the paper for the sketchbooks. I love their blocks of watercolor paper. I have several. I keep buying them. I think they're great. I love the texture. I love the way water behaves on them. This is different though. You probably can't really see this well, but it has a very unpleasant texture to it. It's kind of smooth, but there's like a very irregular machine texture to it that I don't like. And this same texture is also in their non-cotton watercolor sketchbooks, which I had used one of those years before and I didn't like that one either. Should have been a sign, but I had to learn the hard way. So that is also why it took me so long to finish this. I started it at the beginning of 2023 and I finished it in November. So it took me basically all of 2023, all of 2024, and then most of 2025 to go. 3 whole years. Usually I'm a bit faster, and it's just, I didn't want to work in those. So we'll get to this again later. But first, about this page. I use this as a swatch page. This is a 5-tube set from M. Graham. And these are not colors I usually gravitate to, but I thought it was a really interesting combination. And I had gotten them just for Christmas in 2023, so I would in 2022. So in early 2023, I was excited to try them out. They are extremely heavy in pigment, which was different from the other paints I owned, which is why my first test painting turned out like this, which is why we're covering it up. These are so intense and opaque. It is really nice. Like, they are also expensive, but they are worth it. They are so loaded with pigment. It's actually extremely nice. Yeah. And this set at the beginning, I've done a number of swatches here too, but you will see these colors pop up again and again, because for a while I was thinking of just using this sketchbook specifically to just explore this 5-color M. Graham set and another 5-color M. Graham set that I also got for that Christmas. You'll see that later, but also that did not pan out the way I imagined. But yeah, here was still testing out those colors, very heavy on the purple. It's my favorite color. And yeah, then I also swatched some, I think these are some of the super granulating colors from Schminke. These were in a little set of, these were from a 3-tube set that came together, and I think these I bought separately in pans, maybe. It's difficult to remember. It's been a long time. And more swatches. These are the Boku Undo watercolors. It's a set of very dark, desaturated tones. I really, really like this, and I immediately had to test it out. And I really love this. Down here, I think I redid the same painting with my Gansai Tambi paints, because they're very similar, but the Gansai Tambi set I have is very saturated, just to see what the difference would be, and this was really fun. At this point, I was already fighting with the paper. I did not like how water behaved on it and the way paints flow. It's very, very sluggish, and the paper stays wet forever, but not in a way you can work on it. It just stays damp, and it's so annoying. Which is one of the reasons why I did not like working on this. But at this time, I still thought that was user error. I thought that was on me. Sometimes when you have a new watercolor paper, you need some time to get used to it, to figure out the quirks and find a way to work with it more effectively. This did not happen for this. This did not happen for this. And yeah, more swatches of that 5-color set. This is a burnt umber, a raw sienna, probably. I think this is an olive green. Oh god, I am saying things, but I don't think these are true. This is definitely a dioxazine violet, and this is a cerulean. But yeah, I was testing them out, seeing how they mix and what kind of, colors I could achieve with them. I think this is super interesting to do, and also super helpful because it helps you get an understanding of what you can even expect, so you're not planning paintings which have colors in them that you just can't do. Like, for example, this mixture, you can't really do any reds. You have like these desaturated dark tones, like these browns that are kind of reddish, but you're never gonna get to like a full nice red. But yeah, still trying to figure out this paper. I was doing some studies and I was having a bad time. It's just, oh man, I'm just gonna keep saying it. This paper sucks so much. Here I was doing, I think, redrawing an old sketch of mine with this color set, and that was a bad choice because, as you can see, this is very heavy on the grays, and these colors do not come with the gray, so I kept having to mix different shades of gray together, which took a lot of time. And like, why did I do that? I didn't have to. I shouldn't have done that. But yeah, you can see over here me trying to figure out how the fuck I could get to the black from the colors I had there. And I mean, I did work it out in the end, but oh my god. The journey. The fucking journey. This was also, I think at the beginning I especially also struggled a bit because the paints, again, were colors I don't usually gravitate to. So I wasn't quite sure how to use them correctly. And because they were so heavy on pigment, at first I tried to use them just very diluted, but that didn't look very good. So eventually I figured out that I do want them at a high saturation, and that just meant that there would be a lot of darks and intense colors, which, it takes a lot of confidence to paint like that. So that was, that took me a while to get there. This was a study, and I think this is just a color study of water, maybe. Who knows? But yeah, here I did some more sky and like some water, some vague landscape studies. And I think of this, actually, this is a great example of how this paper behaves, like how water behaves on it, because you can see the way these things run into each other, which is very unpleasant. The water doesn't spread evenly, but it moves around these veins in the paper, and again, it stays wet. Not even wet, just kind of like moist for forever. So it's just very, very frustrating to work with. I would not recommend this. I am never using one of these again. Oh my god, I hated this. Some more portrait studies from Pinterest. I love doing these, and as you can see, I was still working with the same colors. Again, trying to figure out gray. I think this one I tried to paint without reference, which was a huge mistake. Why did I do that? I don't know enough about landscapes to do them from memory, so then I tried again with a reference, and this one turned out a lot better, I think. This one got a lot nicer. And of course, we couldn't go too long without me drawing one of my characters. I think this is cute, but again, there are several parts where I can just see how weirdly the color flowed, and I did not enjoy it. There are many things in here which I don't hate that I made, but I also did not have a good time making them, if that makes sense. These were some color studies. I was just, experimenting with these 5 paints still, seeing what kind of moods and vibes I could create with them. I think it was like fun. I don't really do this a lot otherwise, but yeah, no, it was like a fun little thing to do. Yeah, there's not much to say. It's just a random portrait. And on we go. I think this is the point where this was still done with the 5 color set. And as you can see, the purple is most present in everything I did with it because it's just my favorite color. I love purple. If you're new here and didn't know, yes, I love purple. It's my color. # my purple. And then after this, I got kind of tired of it. And this one I painted with a different palette, still with a purple. Listen, dioxazine purple is basically on all of my palettes just because it's such a staple color, but also it's such a beautiful purple. And it's easily available too. So yeah. This is also a theme that's unusual for me. I've been trying to do a bit more landscapes because I'm very, very bad at it. And this is probably one of my favorite things I did in this sketchbook. This was again made with that 5 color M Graham set, and I'm so proud of it. It looks so good. It was definitely from reference, of course. I could not have done it without a reference. This was also from reference, but with a different palette. As you can see, there's like a ultramarine in here and some yellows that I could mix with this. And yeah, I like this a lot less than this. That's okay, I guess. And yeah, at that point, I also kind of gave up on the sketchbook for a while. I just used it for swatching colors. I had recently bought, but I didn't really paint all that much. This was a test painting with, I think I got this dark red when I did this, and maybe also the yellow. Yeah, just a little character doodle to get the vibes down. Then this page. Oh, this is also interesting. I was playing with some limited color triads, and the first thing I wanted to try was a warm primary palette. So I had a warm red, warm yellow, and an indigo, I think. So I wanted a bit more of a dirtied up blue that's not super saturated. And I tested them out, all the mixes I could get. And I think the next few paintings are all with these. This portrait study was done with these 3. And so were all of these. I wanted to see what kind of range I could get with them. And there was a lot. I did like more paintings with these in other sketchbooks. This is also another reason why the sketchbook took forever. I think the Paul Rubens watercolor sketchbook I toured earlier this year also was, I had that at the same time as this, so I was working in this even less. Yeah, this was another chunk of time later. This was when I put together my new watercolor palette. I have a video about that too. And I just like swatching things out. I didn't know what to do with this, so I just did a little swatch to have an overview of what I had. And this was actually, this was supposed to be a life drawing I was out about with a friend of mine who also draws. And I was trying to do the watercolor right there, but we didn't really have that much time. It was pretty cold. I think this was in like October or November. It was pretty cold outside, and then we just stopped, and I never came back to finish it. And that's that's why this page is like that. More swatches. I have a lot of blue paints, and I wanted to see what the exact differences were. These are 2 Parylene greens. I think this is the Daniel Smith, and this one might be, it's either Winsor Newton or, I don't know. I'll have to look it up, but it's also not important. But I will say the Daniel Smith one is has like a weird like granulation aspect that's just kind of unpleasant to look at. I like the new one I got much better. I did use this up, like, my tube is empty, but I do like the color, but I wanted to try a different one, and I'm very happy with the new one I got. Then this is just another portrait study. I think I was still exploring this palette and testing out what I could do with this. This is very heavy on this one. This is a neutral tint, I think. I think this is also a Schminke paint. And I like it in color, but it turns out it doesn't get quite as dark. I had this as kind of a replacement for black or Payne's Gray, which I usually use. And it is dark, but it is also kind of... It doesn't reach black, and it also hasn't got as much tinting strength as other paints, which makes it kind of annoying to mix with. So I don't think I'll be keeping it. I'll be using it up on my palette, but I don't think I'll be keeping it for when it's empty and I'm refilling. I'm not choosing that again. I think these were just from imagination. These aren't studies, and you can tell because they're worse than the studies from earlier. And now we're getting, this is like I would describe as the last chunk, because this all happened in the last few months. This was in October, and then in November I also did a lot in here just because I wanted it to be done. Anyway, little chibi of my character Max, who I love. It's a little creature. And then we're getting into the landscape section. These both are based on photos I took on a trip I went on with my friend. I'm really proud of how this one came out. It's really nice, and the view we had from there was also really nice. This was not from life, though. I just took a photo to paint later because it was, again, kind of very cold. And now we're getting into the landscape section. So I mentioned earlier, I was thinking, well, not thinking, I am kind of trying to get a bit better at landscapes, and for a while now I've been collecting video tutorials on YouTube for like loose watercolor landscape paintings, and now I've put them to use. This is what the rest looks like. These are basically all based on... Oh, there's a hair. These are all based on tutorials, so these are not my ideas. These are also... I think some might be just from reference, but yeah. These are all a bit moody. I am not very good at this yet, but you can also see a definitive improvement over time. I also really like this one. I think I took a lot of time, but also you can see my tape kind of gave up on here, sadly. So very colorful. I don't like these. These are terrible. I love the juxtaposition because I really like this one, and these are just awful. Yeah, this one I think was also from a tutorial, but it turned out I redid this later on because I liked the vibes of what they produced in the tutorial, but this one is not. It's not it. Let's put it like that. This one I think was just me trying to simplify reference in the way I'd seen people do in these tutorials, and it didn't quite work. It looks bad. But yeah, for most of these, I think, yeah, I almost exclusively used the M. Graham paints. The first set I showed at the beginning, as well as another set, the Cityscape set, which looks like this, which in it has a very intense red, and as well as Payne's Gray and a dark brown, and like an intense yellow. So that's where these oranges are coming from. Yeah, this is also where I really noticed again how I don't like how water behaves on this, because I could see how the water was behaving on the papers of the people who were painting the tutorials, and it was not doing the same on here. It was flowing so much worse. It looked so much less nice. It was frustrating. I still like how some of these came out, but man, I was not having a great time. But, I thought I don't like wasting my paper. So I decided, oh, if I'm going to do bad drawings for a while anyway, I might as well use this paper. And that's, that's what you can say mostly. I did use the hell out of this. But yeah, this one I think was just based on a reference image and wasn't a tutorial. I think. Yeah. I do like the vibes of a lot of them. And I also, even though this is not a lot, I think it's like maybe 10 or something of these, I do also feel like just from these, I have learned a lot, which is great. I do really appreciate tutorials for this because just watching the way somebody else paints while they explain why they make the choices they make is so helpful and so informative. I cannot recommend it enough. This is, I think, the redraw of the earlier one, or like a similar thing, based on the same process. Where was it? There. You can see this was my first attempt. This was my second attempt. I think there is some definite improvement visible here, and this is. I was so happy when I finished this. One, because I think it did turn out kind of nice, even though I did it by myself with a reference image. I really like the way the purple and yellow flow into each other here. But A, because of that, and also because it was the last page I had to fill. These are swatches from the M-Gram Cityscape set. I will say this, I think this color combination speaks to me much more just because I really love Payne's gray and red, and the browns are kind of inoffensive. And of course the yellow is pretty nice. But there's also like a few mixes like this dark purplish red. I really love this one. This speaks to me a lot. But yeah, this is final page. We are done. I'm also emotionally done. I am so happy I don't have to look at this sketchbook again after this because, oh my god, it is not good. If you think about getting one of these, please don't get a different one. I wish they made the Paul Rubens watercolor sketchbooks with their cotton paper in this size or bigger, but unfortunately they're very small. I love the paper though. Of those, the paper in this is not good. If I wanted a Hahnemühle bound sketchbook, I think I'd have to bind one myself. But yeah, this was that sketchbook, and yeah, I don't have anything more to say except to reiterate how much I hate this book and how it almost made me want to stop painting with watercolor for a while, but there are still some things in here I liked that I made, even though the path there was more of a struggle than it had to be. And as always, I would like to hear what your favorite pages were. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you around.